Coming up on show 912, Tesla's 2 million mile battery? Stick around, I'll fill in the blanks. Plus on the podcast today, we're talking about more supercharging around Europe over the last 3 months, why Germans love plugging in more than ever before, and BMW making a lot of i3s. Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you're listening in the world. Welcome to EV News Daily for Tuesday, 20th of October. Martin Lee here, and I sit here all day and go through every EV story that I possibly can, filter out the stuff that you need to know, and bring it to you on this here podcast. So yesterday we were talking about the Made in China Model 3. Being exported to Europe, kind of mind-blowing for some people because Elon has said a long time ago that if it's made in China, it'll be sold in China. So I've seen all sorts of theories over the last 24 hours from people saying, well, there's no demand anymore in China, so they're looking for places to send the cars. Okay, that's one way of looking at it. To actually the other alternative, which is Europeans will pay more for cars and Tesla can make more money by making cars in China and selling them in Europe. Well, let's find out more details, and you can make your mind up of what you think's going on here. The first batch of Shanghai-made Tesla Model 3s, Standard Range Plus, of course, about to begin their journey to here in Europe. The vehicles are en route to the port of Zeebrugge in Belgium, where they'll be distributed to countries like Germany and France, says Teslarati. Recent reports from Chinese media have announced the shipment of thousands of made-in-China Standard Range Plus Model 3s. As noted by the Tesla owner Ray for Tesla on Twitter, the shipments will start next week. So next Tuesday, 1 week today, they'll be loaded onto the ships. Tesla owner online Armand Verbeek suggested that the Chinese-made Model 3 could be on trains to Europe due to vehicles being fitted with protective wraps. I don't agree with that because pretty much how all premium automakers will ship their cars are in those protective wraps. And I think they're thrown away at the end of those journeys, by the way. They're 100% not used again. If anything, possibly some of them recycle them. But yeah, you've seen them basically covering the whole car. And not all car makers do that, but more premium car makers, over the years have been covering various bits of it when you see them on the back of lorries, and now often on car transporters and in shipment, they just cover the whole car in those wraps. Based on comments from readers to Teslarati, shipments by train would take 2 weeks. I've never thought about that, but there's a reason why there are so many shipping routes between China and Europe, because it's just so much cheaper to put stuff on a ship, isn't it? I guess they could put all these cars in a line on many trains, but you wouldn't get as many. It would be more expensive, and so I don't think the train theory holds any water. Pardon the pun, because we're talking about boats here as well. This does point towards Model Y as well coming to Europe. Well, maybe it does. My perspective on that is if demand allows. Now, demand in China for Model Y will certainly be very high when they start to make cars before the end of the year. Model Ys from Shanghai. Yes, they could sell Model Ys in Europe for a higher price, but I think, I don't know, they'll serve the Chinese market first. Berlin will probably start to make some sort of car, not for customers, around the first quarter of next year, because the buildings are shooting up. And then by summer, so June or July, the wise money is on the very first customer cars being delivered from Berlin at the Gigafactory. And of course, the first car they're making is the Model Y. It's going to be that whole new production process with the single-piece cast front and rear. We think the new 4680 cells, according to one thing that Elon said. That wasn't battery day, but that was a subsequent clarification. Which, if so, why would they start to bring some of the existing Model Ys into Europe just for a few months? Well, obviously to make money, but I'm not sure they would do that. And anyway, if I was in Europe and somebody said, do you want to buy a Model Y in January, but it'll come from China? And by the way, nothing wrong with Chinese manufacturing. Look, my iPhone is absolutely stunning. Some of the best electronics I've owned, made in China. So yeah, no problem. And but do you want to wait 6 months and get an entirely new car, like the Model Y looks the same on the outside, but the way it's made, underneath, new cell technology, yeah, I think I'll wait 6 months, thanks, unless you're absolutely desperate. I wouldn't buy a Model Y here in Europe now. I'd just sit on my hands, just drive something else until you can get one next year. So that's a couple of factors in there. The Model 3 from Fremont no longer has to do that 20-day journey. So at the minute, all of our Model 3s go onto a ship and sail down the west coast, past Mexico, etc., through the Panama Canal, then across the Atlantic. Takes about 20 days. I think the shipping from China is a more circuitous route and takes about 30 days. Plus, look, the margin on those Model 3 made in China cars is going to be better. So selling a Model 3 in Europe that's made in China versus US, higher margin, because they won't lower the prices. 1,000% they won't lower the prices. Prices went down in Norway recently, but not the rest of Europe, and I can't see them needing to lower prices. Demand is still very good. So, what do you think? I'd love to hear your comments. As one commenter noted that Tesla can charge more for the Standard Range Plus Model 3 in Europe versus China, and they actually come with these new cells as well, the LFP cells, so lithium iron phosphate, and they also provide better margins. So it's double whammy for Tesla. And there might be some battery cell constraints along with the Model Y coming out of China. So to supply Europe, a cell diversification this person was talking about is kind of smart. They bypass the Chinese demand in favour of Europe, and I can't wait to see the first European YouTube reviewers, this person says. Looking at build quality, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. Like, I don't know, I've not seen myself any car made by Tesla in China. I've not been over there. Everything else that I have that's a premium product made in China is good, and everything that I have that is cheap and cheerful, and from some of those websites, I won't name them. They're not. I mean, they're legit, but it's cheap. Quality's rubbish, but you get what you pay for, and the Chinese know how to make a good product if that's what you spec, and that's what you pay for. So, we'll see. I suspect the quality coming out of the Shanghai Gigafactory, as it's brand new, as it's the best of the learning that they've had, is going to be absolutely fine. So those are our big headlines to lead with today on the podcast. Let me know your thoughts, and I would love to hear from you. Tesla researchers are presenting a new battery with a 2 million mile life cycle is the headline story today. Tesla battery researchers around Jeff Dahn. He's the leader of that team in Canada who is under contract to Tesla and working on developing new cell technology, have presented some updated test results of their new battery cells. Rather than talking about the 1 million mile battery, the batteries are now expected to last 10,000 cycles and provide traction for 2 million miles. That is 3.2 million kilometers, says the industry website Electrive. If you add some special additives, those batteries can withstand 10,000 cycles, assuming a conservative 350 kilometer range per cycle, as in fully charged, fully discharged, and back to the top again. And so that would be about 3.5 million kilometers, whether it's 3.2, 3.5 million kilometers. That is so much higher than the 1 million mile battery, or 1.6 million kilometer battery, that we heard about this time about 12 months ago, actually. If the batteries were only discharged by 25% or even 50%, but not all the way down, they show almost no degradation on the latest Tesla research. So if you can stay within that charge level range and the battery is rarely discharged lower than 20% and not going over higher than 80%, there is so little degradation on the latest cell technology that even 2 million miles is looking a little conservative. The battery will far outlast the metal bits that'll be rusty by then on the actual car itself. But of course, after that, then it can go into grid storage or home storage, where rather than having to pull 150 kilowatts of power, well, a kettle is 3 kilowatts. And so even then, the demands on the battery are so much lower. The batteries going into cars now will conceivably still be used in some form in the next 20 or 30 years. Think about that, 2050, and somewhere those batteries will be used. Maybe it'll be third hand or third life, but they'll still be in use, and there'll be a point where recycling them becomes economical, and who knows when that point will be. I mean, you can recycle the batteries now, obviously, but it's cheaper to make some new ones and have them in service for 20 or 30 years, long after they still become useful in a car. That makes me so damn optimistic for the future and excited to see a bunch of applications that I haven't even thought about yet. But it gives me hope, gives me optimism that these batteries that are being developed now, even the ones in the cars now, are just going to be around for so much longer than all the doomsayers and the naysayers will have you believe if you read social media. And people saying, well, what happens when the car is, only lasts 5 years and you put it in landfill? Couldn't be further from the truth. A little update today from Tesla. They have over 120 microgrids in operation all over the planet, using batteries and a bit of renewable in there as well. We're picking this up from a comment made by a Tesla executive. Ever since the launch of Tesla Energy and their energy storage products, Tesla started working on what's known as a microgrid, says Electrek. Well, on LinkedIn, the Director of Engineering and Construction at Tesla, called Michael Snyder, made a post, and he said, if you like solving problems at the nexus of power system interactions, protection coordination, system and product level controls, check out the link below for a microgrid focused product engineer looking for a job. We have 120 plus operational microgrids around the world with high impact to a variety of communities and customers. This is unique and a rewarding role. And it certainly is. And I think it's one of the things that Tesla get on quietly doing. And these kind of energy storage products. There's a few big headlines that get the attention, but that's amazing, isn't it? 120 microgrids, whether it's a solar installation, a battery installation, and then whether it's a remote island or a community that would have been importing diesel once a week and etc. Just burning stuff, no longer needing to do that. Now, I'm not a Tesla owner, but I do know that my friends that have the cars still say that supercharging is the highlight, despite all of the other benefits of owning a Tesla. And the supercharger network has been expanding here in Europe over the last 3 months. 250 new stalls all over Europe since July, and all but 10 of them are V3 superchargers. All the chargers are on well-travelled routes. And since the beginning of July, there's 12 new ones in Denmark, 6 in Finland, 28 in France, 72 in Germany, 4 new ones going into Iceland. The Iceland ones were the old V2s, by the way, not the latest technology, which I thought was curious. 4 new stalls in Italy in the last 3 months, less than I would think for a country like Italy, but 40 in the Netherlands, 36 in Norway. Talking of Norway, by the way, we do a deep dive into the Norwegian industry on last Saturday's interview show, Saturday Special. Check it out, little plug for last weekend's programme with Jan from eMobility Norway. In Portugal, Tesla just added 8 more stalls, 4 in Spain, 16 in Switzerland, and 42, hurrah, in the UK. Places like Hilton Park Southbound and Leeds and Lifton and Manchester South. A few of those actually V2s as well, but most of them are the new V3 superchargers. Across Europe, if you look at Europe now, there's 5,300 stalls spread across 530 locations, 29 countries, and they continue to expand and invest, and that is definitely a good reason for the fans of that brand to be buying a car. But let's move on. We didn't do too much Tesla news over the last couple of weeks, and so a bit of a bunch of it there on the show. But let's move on. Let's talk Porsche and the Panamera has some new hybrid to talk about. The new hybrid powertrains for the Panamera hatchback and the Panamera Sport Turismo, bringing back the 4e hybrid and Turbo S e-hybrid to the range. That joins the 4S e-hybrid that was launched when the Panamera was facelifted earlier this year. Says evo.co.uk, well, the Turbo S e-hybrid has its position as the most powerful Panamera derivative, 690 brake horsepower, 4-litre twin turbocharged V8, and a lot of electric power in there as well. 0 to 62 in 3 seconds and 196 mile an hour top speed. You can drive on electric power alone at 31 miles, which is pretty respectable if you plug it in every night. And talking of plugging in, boy oh boy, do the Germans love their plug-in cars. Okay, it's no Norway, but the German plug-in vehicle market had a record month last month in September. 41,000 registrations and a load of plug-in hybrids, says Clean Technica. The plug-in vehicle share reached 16%, half of which was pure BEV, and the other half was plug-in hybrids. The yearly total is now 10%, so it's definitely going up, and in about the same proportion. So about half of all new cars sold BEV, pure electric, 10% had a plug, but 16% for the month of September, and now it's got to double digits. It has officially become known as the disruption zone, dun dun dun, which is not a phrase that I've heard before, but maybe it's a thing in technology or emerging tech. So I'm going to go away and research what the disruption zone, dun dun dun, is. The top models in Germany: the Zoe, the Model 3, the ID3 and the Kona, and the Mercedes GLC 300e plug-in. Well, where do the batteries come from for all these EVs that I know are coming, you know are coming, but are going to take people by surprise over the next couple of years? Well, Reuters says that LG Chem is looking for a site to build another new factory in Europe as they plan more than double their global their EV battery capacity by the year 2023. LG Chem already has 2 battery cell plants here in Europe. They're both in Poland, by the way, and most of LG Chem's facilities are over there. If production capacity is expanded at their existing plants, they'll get to 120 gigawatt hours, which is a lot, 120 gigawatt hours every single year, and that's enough for about 2.5 million battery packs. If you an average size of 50 kilowatt hours, some smaller, some bigger, but that's a lot, according to Push EVs. Now, Pedro says that with a third battery cell plant in Europe built by 2023, that would be enough for 5.2 million battery packs every single year. And that's amazing. 5.2 million EVs on average every single year, just being supplied by those cell manufacturing facilities in Poland with LG Chem. Hey, some good news from BMW. The 200,000th BMW i3 rolled off the production line yesterday. The BMW i3 had a fluid black metallic paint with blue accents, and it was produced for a customer in Saxony. With the start of production back in 2013, that factory became a pioneer and the centre of excellence for sustainable mobility. The BMW i3 was BMW's first pure electric car on a large scale, with a passenger cell made of then and still is now carbon fibre reinforced plastic. And finally, the energy company here in the UK, and they just made a big investment in the US as well, is called Octopus Energy, announcing an increase in the amount of networks that can be used on their car charging network. Now, they don't own the chargers, but they do connect them into a bit of a network. It's called Electric Juice, and the way it works is it will charge your home electric bill, which I love because I'm with Octopus, right? And there's my referral link is in the show notes of the podcast, of YouTube, on my website, evnewsdaily.com. So if you are in the UK and you want to switch energy provider, I would appreciate that. Have a look at the referral link that I have. It means you get 50 quid for free. I get 50 quid. And it's personally, I recommend the network because I'm on Agile, so I get cheap energy overnight and during the day when we shift a lot of our charging and washing and things like that. So Octopus have just added some new networks. Franklin, Hubstar, Alpha Power and Plug and Go have now joined the Octopus service called Electric Juice. And what they do is they send you another RFID card. Brilliant. But I haven't got too many, really. Just my BP Charge Master one, a couple of others, New Motion, etc. And then when you turn up to these chargers, which are now all being put under the umbrella of Electric Juice, you can wave your charge card at the machine and it will charge your home electric bill for the energy you use. Now, I love that because I think it's a glimpse into the future, because I think a lot about how we use energy in the future. Electricity, right? And so whether I'm turning my lights on or doing my washing or heating the house or driving the car, in my mind, that's all the same now. So it used to be, right, go to the petrol station and fill up and then pay the electricity company for that. But energy companies of the future will be a hybrid, right? And so I like that idea that I can have a charge card that just gives me one bill. Like, it's the energy that I need in my life, whether it's moving around, my mobility, my heating and lighting. Just bill me for the electricity that I use day to day. I don't care where that is. And that's what Octopus are trying out in this beta trial, so I haven't tried it yet. So I did earlier today before recording the podcast sign up. So I've given them my details. I think it takes a few days to get sent one of these charge cards and or RFID tags, and I've got one pretty near here. I might make a video of it actually, so just to show you how it works in operation. And I think more energy companies should do this kind of thing, because it simplifies life for their customers. We'll see it. Well, I'll give it a go. I'll see if it works before I give it the thumbs up. And that's your show for today. Thank you for listening. Well, there are 911 previous episodes in the podcast. You can listen to all of those for free. The blog is evnewsdaily.com. Check out the audio on YouTube. It's not really a YouTube video. It's just me chatting, but still. And if you can leave a little review any place, anytime, anywhere, then it really helps grow the show. Seriously, because other people see what you've written. And so it helps that kind of recommendation. So, I know you're busy, but if you get a chance, it really helps me out. Hey, thank you to our premium partners on Patreon. Phil Roberts of Electric Future, Brad Crosby, Avid Technology, Porsche of the Village in Cincinnati, Audi of Cincinnati East, Volvo Cars of Cincinnati East, NationalCarCharging.com and AlohaCharge.com, Derek Riley and his EV Review Ireland YouTube channel, and Richard at rsimons.co.uk, the electric vehicle specialist. Have a wonderful day. We will talk Tesla later in the week with earnings to talk about, if you hadn't noticed or if I hadn't mentioned it. But in the meantime, have a good one. I'll catch you soon. Oh, and do remember, there's no such thing as a self-charging hybrid.